Today we're in Yuma, Arizona, not far from downtown, and this is the Yuma Territorial Prison Museum. Work began in 1875. It was opened in 1876 with 9 prisoners, and during the years as more prisoners came in, they helped to build it and expand it. And this is the watchtower. When the prison was no longer in use, people in town used to come over here and take some of the rocks for building materials. This was called Yuma Crossing. The Colorado River down there used to be much wider, flowed all the way down to below those rocks. And there was a ferry that crossed it, and there was an Indian mission on the other side. And then that bridge was built in 1915. It was the first bridge across the Colorado River. This watchtower here is the most prominent feature. It stands up high so they can see the whole prison. This is also a water tower, a water collection tank underneath there. They built a pump later on to get the water out. And you got pretty good view. There's the river again. And there's a pretty good view. This is an old piece, what's left of the old wall, and it'll join up to this entrance later on. But there's a better view of the prison. This entrance is called the Sally Port. It's where that piece of wall used to join up on both sides. This was the main entrance to the prison. Nice heavy-duty steel. Gates on the ceiling. They walk through here. This was the main area of the prison. That truck there shows you how big that guard tower was. This was established in 1876, but the building started in 1875. They used the materials they had, the rocky ground, the sandy ground, stacked it up, let it bake in the sun. Most of it's still there. Rocks are still in the walls. Then they coated on the outside to make it look a little better. And a lot of that's still there. This was all built, but the prison itself, the cells were carved out of the rock. And we'll get to that in just a minute. This is the actual prison itself. There was once a wall here too. All these cells were built out of stone. 6 beds in there.
They called me an agitator. Didn't know that was a crime. Well, as soon as I got here, I didn't have to get out.
Steel gate. Steel lined the top of it and the bottom of it and the sides. Ghosts still tell their stories. This one's got a shiv or a file. And it's a lot of still intact. It was used for about 33 years until 1909. Arizona became a state in 1912.
That's sad.
And these connect to the other side. There's a steel in the middle of them, but they're open on both sides. Prisoners be in both sides of them.
My prison term very shortly, and I'm looking forward to my return to society. I feel I will be well equipped.
Sir, my name is William Jordan Flake. I may be a prisoner in this institution, but I am no criminal. A prisoner of conscience on a warrant of unlawful plural marriage. Yes, in keeping with the teaching of my religion, I married Lucy, and with Lucy's full and free consent, I married my second wife's roots.
This was called the Hellhole of the West. It was just known for its heat. It's Arizona. It gets 110, 120 in the summertime. Can you imagine being in these cells during all that? These beds are made of steel. This one's cut open just so you can see what it's like, both sides. It says original iron bunk beds, so they're still Still there. These guys had a view of the west, so the sun would be coming in this way. In total, it held over 3,000 prisoners in the time it was in use, including 29 women. And for a while, the women were kept with everybody else, but then they eventually built a separate part for them. We'll get to that in a minute. There's actually a lot of space in some of these. I've seen jail cells in small towns that are just literally just an iron box. And these are actually pretty big. And it was quite comfortable. There was a lot of amenities they had. They had books, had a hospital. They played games, had a lot of activities. This is still part of the old building. You can see how it's been remodeled and reused in various ways. So given the location, the prisoner said it was insufferable heat that made the place an inferno. The area is surrounded by rivers, quicksand, and desert in all directions. An inhuman snake den and ball and chain a standard punishment. Tuberculosis was the #1 killer. Impossible to endure, more impossible to escape. This is the main cell block, the one we just walked through. And this is the yard. They could go out and have activities. There's some cells here too. These are covered like they would have looked back in the day. Still the same though, dark, cold at night, hot during the day. Statistics are interesting. There's a wide variety of people. White, Mexican, Indian, black, Asian even. Half couldn't read or write. It tells whether or not they smoked, whether they didn't smoke, whether they were drunks, how old they were. This was a hospital, and it was stocked well at the time, had all the medication, had doctors, nurses. This is the women's cell they built later on after a few years when the women were just kept separate, but now, for the most part, the women were kept in their own cells, but after a while they built a special cell just for them. And you can see on the right where it's open, that was their own yard, their own courtyard where they could have activities. That's been demolished since then to make way for that railroad on the other side. But they had their own area. There were 29 women total in prison here over the years when it was opened. This one was carved right out of the rock. Here's a woman with a guitar. But then they had what they call the dark cell, which is just what it sounds like. It was for the violent prisoners, the uncooperative ones, anybody making trouble. They put them in here, and it was dark. It was much deeper, carved into the rock. There was a cage in there, a cell inside it, bolted to the ground. So they were inside a cell inside the rock, with just a hole at the top. And it was very dark. Again, cold at night, hot during the day. Some came out of it traumatized, but that's part of life in prison. But yeah, this one was carved deep into the rock. So dark even the camera wasn't very good at picking up anything. Sort of the highlight of the museum. There's the guard tower again and the outer wall. Straight ahead is a sully port we saw earlier. So this wall would have went around the whole prison, just like this part here. The cell blocks are just on the other side. Pretty good construction. This is what it looked like originally. And there's a really cool model they built showing there's the guard tower. You can see the ferry down at the bottom. That's the sully port where we walked through, and then of course the prison was much bigger than what's left. And again, the surgeon, they had all the medical equipment they needed. Bad girls of the Old West, the 29 women that were kept there. Some interesting stories about why they were in there. This is Pearl Hart. She was a thief and a robber, robbed stagecoaches. This is the gun she used. Her and her husband together, you know, an early Bonnie and Clyde. They were both tried and convicted and sentenced here. But then this story is a interesting one here too. Alfred Moreno, age 15, did not like the way his sister Maria, age 16, was dancing and told her to stop. Maria threatened to kill him, and Alfred said, "Kill me then." So Maria got a shotgun and shot her brother in the face, killing him instantly. 15 years old. So these are all items made by the inmates. There's a little part called the Tombstone Connection. One or two of the guys that was at OK Corral during that gunfight ended up here. Tombstone is east of here. There were 138 attempts to escape. 42 actually made it. Most of them on work details just walked off, never to be seen again. This is how it looked originally. You can see how high the river was back then. And it's a pretty good sized museum. A lot of stuff in there, a lot of artifacts and pictures and information. A little theater with a movie playing about the prison. And then again, there's the watchtower, and we're over here at the cemetery. 111 prisoners died while they were there. 104 graves are here now. And all kinds of reasons, tuberculosis being number one. Some were suicide, some were murder, and some were killed trying to escape. There's a memorial to them with all their names listed. All the mounds of the graves. And right here is just a little park on the edge of the river. Again, this would have been underwater at the time. The river was much higher. And it's a nice little area to go after you've seen the prison. This is January. It's a nice day in the 60s. Little creek running here. Like to be here in the fall. I bet it looks a lot better. And again, we'd be at the bottom of the river looking up at that guard tower. And it was used for 33 years until 1909. Then they closed it down until another prison opened up in Florence, Arizona. And then 1912, Arizona became a state. During the 20s and 30s, during the Depression, hobos would hop the train and stay there. Even during the Depression, some families lived in there. And it was 1958 that it became a park. And then later this museum. And if you're lucky, you can catch a train going by over your head. And if you're real lucky, you can run into some of the local wildlife. Come here. So if you're into history at all, it's an interesting place. If you're into old buildings, it's definitely worthwhile stopping to visit if you're in the area. I think that there's a small fee. I think it was $8 or $10 to get in, but it was well worth it. It was a good time.